Hello, good morning, friends. Actually, this part of this is Shivakkumar again, and have a nice day. And in this video, actually, is very important compared to earlier videos because actually this video is about preparing the system for migration to SAP S4 HANA. So, which step? I mean, many questions will come into your mind, right? Which steps should you consider when planning your migration project to SAP S4 HANA? How does SAP supports you? Can the migration be compared to an upgrade within SAP ERP product family or not? So this video will answer your questions. And furthermore, I like to introduce three possible migration scenarios: a new implementation, a system conversion, and a landscape transformation. So actually, when actually after you've gone through the videos, so I think actually you are familiarized with the scenarios and able to summarize the advantages and disadvantages under different conditions. Okay, so I think actually my videos will help you to understand SAP S/4HANA migration, how to do that, what are the checklists, pre-checklist, so migration techniques and everything. So we will discuss one by one. Okay. So now move on to uh, the basic consideration, that is upgrade or a product implementation, right? Migration to SAP S4 HANA offers many benefits, but to ensure a smooth migration, you must be aware of your specific reasons for migrating. Consequently, you should not plan to migrate to SAP S4 HANA as an update or upgrade of an already implemented solution. The functional and business scope of SAP ERP and SAP S4 HANA are similar, but this migration will introduce a new digital core to your enterprise that will ensure or supports further competitiveness in the business area, okay, or business world. So, what needs to be taken into account? So we should at least answer the following questions, which will discuss in more detail. Okay, which target status do you want to achieve? So what position is SAP S4 HANA supposed to take into a system landscape? Do you want to execute a proof of concept, or do you want to use SAP S4 HANA immediately in production? Can you use I mean, migration as an opportunity to optimize how your process are mapped in the enterprise software. So, which operating model will be suits you? So, do you want to run SAP S/4HANA at your own data center or through hosting service? I mean, cloud. Or do you want to use SAP S/4HANA as a software as a service model, SaaS? So what is the initial situation? So what is the current production version of your source system? What is the quality of data in your source system? How strictly do you leverage SAP standard? And how many custom enhancement exists? Do you want to use a system as a template? Okay. So which users do exist? How many user exist? And how are they distributed? Which user groups are expected to benefit from the implementation of SAP S/4 HANA? And next question, how is the solution to be used? I mean, which business scenario and transactions are to be used? How are this implementation distributed across your users? And what is your defined time frame for the project? So within what period of time is the project supposed to be completed? Which milestones need to be reached and when? And finally, do you need support? So what kind of support you need? What is your budget? Which services do you expect to purchase? And which services can be provided in-house? Okay, and based on that, actually we need to go in for preparing for the coming decades, right? So the more aware you are of the significant SAP digital core, the more added value of SAP S/4HANA can usually generate. The basic concept of SAP S/4HANA is pledged to prepare enterprise for the challenges of the coming decades. Restricting yourself to a purely technical update of existing systems and landscape would be an inadequate simplifications. You should analyze whether your process have grown as well as whether your system landscape will be sustainable in the future, or whether its structure is obsolete and should thus be adjusted. So technical and process oriented parts or implementation are very important. Thus, when migrating to SAP S/4HANA, you have to consider at least two parts of implementation: the purely technical part and the process oriented part. Okay, so duration, that is it is a kind of illustration, not a real thing. So preparation, right? So planning and preparation. So the technical implementation includes technical procedure and semantical adaptations requires configuration of a new business process and test it, and finally roll out. Okay, these are the main parts of migrating to SAP S/4HANA. So technical implementation includes the technical implementation of a migration mainly includes migrating the database to SAP S/4HANA, replacing the program code, adapting data models to the SAP S/4HANA data model, and implementing the front-end server for the SAP Fiori interfaces. Your existing custom codes might have might have to be technically adapted. These activities generally do not depend on the scope of subsequent use in production and can easily be implemented using relevant tools, and can therefore be technically enrolled or controlled and supported. Thus, SAP provides a comprehensive portfolio of tools for planning and carrying out this technical implementation. So let's move on to the process oriented implementation. The process oriented implementation of a migration refers to adapting how existing business processes are mapped in the system and to introducing new applications. These modifications to business process are only partially carried out in the system itself. In most cases, you can only enter the indicators such as a changed configuration information. Regarding planning, however, you will have to perform far more comprehensive change manage steps. These steps include, for example, designing your new changed business process, configuring necessary measures, training users, assigning roles and authorization pilot operation, and converting the production system. So let's talk about the tasks or individual tasks in the each phases. Say preparation, that is preparatory steps in the source system, analysis of existing business process implementation, comparison with SAP S/4HANA innovations, identification of necessary integration scenarios, pre-checks in the source system, for example, functions used which are already used, industry specific enhancement, custom code, third party enhancement, and then implementation of necessary preparatory conversions in the source systems. Okay, and technical implementation includes installation of SAP S/4HANA, SAP HANA database, SAP S/4 applications, adaptation of technical infrastructure, customizing. Okay, and then process adaptations include adaptation of custom program SAP S/4HANA, development of new or enhanced business process to leverage the innovations in SAP S/4HANA, adaptations of integration scenarios, customization of SAP Fiori interfaces. Okay, the time and effort required for the process oriented implementation, depending on the initial situation and the target status, can account for either a small or a larger part of overall process. Thus, we recommended dividing the migration projects into three phases we just earlier described, because the process oriented implementation is very crucial in all these three phases. In particular, the implementation of new business process does not have to be carried out in parallel to the technical migration. So technical migration, process migration or implementation should not be taken place in parallel. The process migration and technical migration are a separate steps. In general, you plan the introduction of migration of your business process independently from the technical migration. So parallel project phases. Okay. So the approach for introducing SAP S4 HANA to your enterprise, I mean in the project, you prepare the implementation new functions in batches while user continue to use existing functions. Okay, and time, if you consider the implementation with respect, compare the implementation with respect to time, we need to consider the mandatory adjustments and SAP HANA optimization of custom codes and mandatory adjustments required for the associated functions and adapting a new business process, SAP HANA optimization of custom code and so the mandatory. So parallel preparation and implementation of new functions is very much, I mean, observed. A prerequisite of optimal project planning is knowing the desired target, I mean, target state. While the preparation might sounds rather trivial at first, SAP S4HANA migration projects often fail to describe the goal of the migration in detail and rely on vague statements like implementation of SAP S4HANA, okay, and analyzing the trade-off at an early stage. Migrating SAP S4HANA as a general trade-off that you should be aware of a particular if your initial state includes an as a ERP system or a cloud landscape. The more properties of the source system you decide to keep unchanged, example configuration, custom code or applications, the simpler the technical part of migration project. However, the benefit that can be derived from SAP S4HANA in this case might also be reduced because the major benefit from SAP S4HANA are optimized business process, simplified user interfaces, and greater flexibility for the future requirements. So there should be a complete change in the source. Otherwise, actually, if you're reducing without touching any change, actually, if you're doing, then the optimization or end results will also be less, right? Therefore, you should always analyze this trade-off possibility. I mean, trade-off possible analysis criteria in detail. So, type of usage in the target system used for production, or do you want to execute a proof of concept first? In the latter case, you should carry out a greenfield implementation with selective data transfer, okay, and total cost of ownership. SAP S4HANA enables you to reduce the total cost of ownership, that is TCO, right? Total cost of ownership. Example include a reduced data footprint, that is a storage space for the application data in the database is reduced. Another dimension are reduced requirements for your internal IT department because local SAP GUI installations at employee workstations can be avoided. If you explicit the goal for the migration is to lower the TCO, you should also analyze where the custom enhancements can be omitted or replaced by SAP S4HANA applications. Furthermore, you should examine the extent to which multiple existing ERP systems can be merged into single SAP S4HANA system, that is system as one. In addition to the reduced TCO, that is total cost of ownership, users benefit from the access to the real-time data from the system that were previously separated. And then now concentrating on operating model. In SAP S4HANA to be operated in the cloud or on-premise, the two operating models have different characteristics that need to be analyzed. In simple terms, outsourcing the system administrative to the cloud is attractive, especially for the standard business process. And target landscape. How is the entire landscape supposed to change? Are the systems to be consolidated? Are the systems to be separated? Example, financial accounting and material requirements planning. So how is the existing architecture to be adjusted? So all this matters, right, for the target landscape. So we have n number of questions before migration. That is always, I mean, always welcome actually. So it is not it is not inevitable. Remember that you usually also have to set up and configure the front end servers for the SAP Fury, which are required for the new SAP S/4HANA functions. Okay, so SAP implementation methodology. So SAP recommends a methodology with the 6 phases for the project planning and implementation: discover, prepare, discover, prepare, explore, realize, deploy, and run. This methodology is called SAP Activate, which describes in detail, in this videos. Okay, so actually already I have described about the 6 phases of Activate: discover, prepare, explore, realize, deploy, and run. When referring to the migration activities, we assume that we have already opted SAP S/4HANA. We will assume that the discovery phase, during which enterprise priorities are identified and the target architecture is defined, the business case is optimized, and readiness check is carried out already. Has already been successfully completed. So out our focus is on the technical implementation of the migration and less on the process oriented implementation. Okay, we assume that we have selected and defined the characteristics of business process scope in separation between separation in a separate business implementation project. So preparation with the trial access. If you have not completed the discovery phase yet, you should test an SAP S/4HANA system. For this purpose, SAP provides a trial access to a cloud instance of SAP S/4HANA that is only valid for the limited time. Okay, and the 3 migration scenarios I already mentioned. SAP has defined several technical scenarios for the introduction of SAP S/4HANA and also provides the corresponding tools. When planning the migration, you should select the scenario that meets your individual requirements best. The following the video, right? In this video introduce the individual scenarios, so we can discuss about the advantages and disadvantages of the each approach. I told 3, right? So what are the 3? We discuss on the different scenarios in detail. Actually, the basic scenarios, right? New implementation of SAP is for HANA. Second thing, system conversion to SAP is for HANA. Third one, landscape transformation with SAP is for HANA. Okay. So the landscape transformation also includes the steps of the first 2 scenarios and complements them to further benefit them. So new implementation, everybody knows, it's a green implementation, right? So, uh, so we can integrate SAP ERP system and non-SAP system and make it as one SAP S/4HANA system on premise and cloud. And the system conversion, that is SAP ERP system can be converted to SAP S/4HANA on, and landscape transformation includes SAP ERP systems and then in one region, and SAP ERP system in second region, and we have one another region having SAP ERP system, all being converted to single SAP for HANA, either on premise or cloud, whatever decision we like to take. So except for the system conversions, all these 3 scenarios allow you to choose whether you want to implement SAP S/4HANA as a software, as a service in the cloud, or a non-SAP implementation. Okay, the new implementation of SAP is for HANA. So let's discuss. So installing a new system. From the technical perspective, these scenarios is based on the completely new installation of SAP for HANA. In this scenario, we will use software provisioning manager SWPM to download and set up an SAP for HANA system from the available SAP installations media, creating the new system with a new system identification SID in addition to these ABAP instances. A front-end server is also installed, which will be a central hub for operating the SAP Fiori user interface. At first, a new system is delivered with a standard configuration. You will then have to adapt the configuration to meet the requirement of the business process you want to implement. That is customizing. And then data migration. The new system can be fed data from the source system using the SAP S/4HANA Migration Cockpit, a tool that has been developed for SAP S/4HANA. Whether the data is from an SAP system or from a non-SAP system does not matter. When data has been transferred, you can replace the source system with SAP S/4HANA systems. Okay. So new implementation includes SAP Business Suite or non-SAP system can be migrated to SAP S/4HANA on-premise or SAP S/4HANA cloud, whatever version the business prefers. That includes SAP GUA or SAP Fiori. If it is on-premise, then it is a SAP Guy, and if it is a cloud, then it is a SAP Fiori. And then we have SAP S/4HANA Digital Core and SAP HANA platform, where the data migration via the data loading can be taken place from the source system. So SAP provides predefined models for the data transfer, so-called migration objects. Okay. So we need to discuss one by one. What are the supported migration objects? Okay. These objects regularly gets updated or of a new objects added with the new SAP S/4HANA versions. So, so which migration objects are supported at the time of this during the implementation, right? Actually, I have discussed about the 1611 and SAP S/4HANA 1611 cloud as well as SAP S/4HANA 1610 on-premise. Okay. So, supported migration object in data migration using SAP S/4HANA migration cockpit, right? So, supported migration objects: activity price, exchange rate, bill of mechanism, internal order, inventory balance, work centers, profit centers, material master, routing. So, these are the supported migration objects for data migration using SAP S/4HANA migration cockpit. Okay. And then supported migration objects when using migration cockpit. So bank master, material long text, equipment, customer, purchasing info record, maintenance task list, supplier, purchase order, functional location, account receivable, customer open item, picking conditions, characteristics, accounts payable, that is vendor open item, contracts, that is purchasing, class maintenance, fixed asset and balances, source list, and commercial project management CPM. Okay, so all these are the part of the supported migration objects when using migration cockpit. Okay, and default data fields, the format and if available relationship or interfaces to other business objects are defined for each of the business objects in the migration objects. Following the simplification concept, only the most Following the simplification concept, only the most important data fields of each object are already activated in this predefined content. So if needed, you can optionally display additional fields if available in the standard SAP standard custom fields in custom namespaces, right? And also be supplemented. For on-premise implementation, you would use SAP Landscape Transformations (LT) Migration Object Moderator (LTMOM), we were shortly calling landscape landscape. Landscape migration object modeler transaction for this purpose. And for cloud solutions, we need to contact SAP service team. Okay, this is very important. So, as already told, I'm repeating, following the simplification concept, only the most important data fields of each object are already activated in the predefined context content. If needed, you can optionally display the additional fields if available in the SAP standard custom fields, I mean in the custom namespace, and can also be supplemented. For on-premise implementation, you would use SAP landscape transformations, that is simply called LT. I mean LT migration object models, that is landscape transformation migration object model, or LTMOM. Okay, transactions for this purpose. For cloud solutions, we need to contact SAP service team. Okay, so for cloud, we cannot take any action against that. Okay, and overview of migration projects. The selected migration objects are transferred to the project view of the SAP S/4HANA migration cockpit. In the cockpit, at any time during the data transfer, you will be able to see what object data still has to be loaded, and for which object the migration has been completed. The source system data is formatted manually as required. If data needs to be cleaned, for example, if duplicates need to be identified and eliminated, you should address these issues before migrating the data. The cleansed data from the source system is stored in the file in the format defined by the SAP. So the relevant templates are provided by the default. In the next step, the file is uploaded. Basic inconsistencies in the data that is planned and to be imported to the target system, or conflicts in the configuration, are determined by the tools and can be eliminated. Then the data transfer from the source system can be completely completed. So the uploading to S4HANA is implemented. So we have optional projects supported via SAP Rapid Data Migration. I already told, right, RDS system. So we have the steps for data transfer to SAP S/4HANA in case of a new implementation. So what are they? So first step is analysis. Second step is extraction. Third one is cleaning. Fourth one is validation. And fifth one is load. And sixth is final reconciliation. So these are this happens for optional project support via the SAP Rapid Data Migration. And these are the steps for the data transfer to SAP S/4HANA for the new implementation. Okay, the result is a system that corresponds to SAP standard as much as possible, and does not contain any obsolete data. So we need to know how the procedure focus on master data, and only a small amount of transaction data is transferred. The SAP S/4HANA migration cockpit replaces a legacy system migration workbench LSMW, okay, which was used in SAP R3 and SAP ERP systems. SAP S/4HANA no longer supports this tool. LSMW still exists, but rarely makes sense to use it, and should be used at your own risk. For the planned new implementation project, which data you want to transfer is decisive. If the data objects have requirements that are not a part of the content provided, you cannot transfer them with the SAP S/4HANA migration cockpit. Okay, and SAP data migration using SAP data services. For more specific data transfers, you should use SAP Data Service, a tool for extracting and loading of data. Right? SAP Data Service is included for all the HANA users who have SAP HANA license. Optionally, SAP offers a license extension for the data services, which supports modifying and improving data quality and data cleansing, consisting of central data services server and a local front-end front-end for modeling. SAP Data Services also provides migration content that is more comprehensive than in SAP S/4HANA migration cockpit. Okay, so we need to see how the SAP Data Service requires more technical effort, and key user know how than using the SAP S/4HANA migration cockpit, right? So normally, actually, this is a new tool actually to be used in SAP S/4HANA projects. And so, now we are seeing migration objects when using SAP data services. Okay, and earlier we have seen the migration objects when using earlier we have seen the supported migration objects when using migration cockpit, that is S4 SAP S/4HANA migration cockpit. And now actually we are going to see the supported objects for the SAP data services. Okay, so what are they? So activity prices, fixed assets, profit centers, activity type or groups, functional location, purchase orders, activity types, GL balances, purchasing info records, bank master, GL open items, purchasing requisitions, batch, inspection methods, reference operation set, bill of material, BOM, inspection plans, routings, business partners, internal orders, sales orders, characteristics master, and then inventory balance, scheduling agreements, class master, master inspection characteristics, SD pricing, configuration profiles for material, material external customer replenishment, secondary cost elements, contracts, material master, service master, cost center group, material master classifications, source list, cost center, material QM inspection types, statistical key figures, credit memo, object dependency, supplier invoices, custom invoice billing, open deliveries, vendor open items, that is we are saying API items, customer open that is accounts receivable items, and then order reservations, workbench structures, that is in PS, and equipment, planned independent requirements, work centers, exchange rates, profit center groups. So, we include transaction data. So, it includes both the transaction and master data, right? So, for the migration objects when using SAP data services. So recall what migration procedure we described creates a new system with a new new SIL, new SID that contains selected data from the source systems, right? Source ID, right? In most cases, this new system or the new multi-user system landscapes, involving development, test, and production systems, needs to be integrated into overall landscape. Okay, and we can see in further videos on the information and on integration of SAP S for HANA and new implementation scenarios. Okay, and as a preliminary thing, checklist for new implementation is more required. I try to summarize the individual steps for the new implementation. Okay, so first thing, determining the target status, operating model, and distribution of instances. You can carry out new implementation for an on-premise implementation for SAP S/4HANA Enterprise Cloud, that is SAP HEC, and in the public cloud. So identifying the desired new functions, verifying the functions currently used via the simplification list. So I already mentioned actually the simplification list in help.sap.com/s4hana slash under slash underscore op underscore 1610. Take into account the number of users for each function. For existing SAP ERP systems, pre-check in simulation mode, SAP Note 2182725. Analyzing the custom enhancement using custom code migration work list. So we have in https colon forward slash bit dot ly slash forward slash VL448043, right? So this is a website. You usually have to newly implement existing custom programs in SAP S/4HANA Cloud. For more information on new enhancement for SAP S/4HANA Cloud, we can see in coming chapters. Okay, we will definitely discuss on that. For on-premise editions only, So we I mean sizing. We have http colon forward slash double forward slash service.sap.com slash sizing. Sizing. It means sizing means SIZING. Okay. Adjusting input planning, verifying the migration scenarios, if possible, data cleansing and archiving in the source system, setting up the target system, starting the SAP S/4HANA migration cockpit and transferring the data, checking the result for on-premise editions only, setting up front-end server for SAP Fiori, delta configuration, final test, rollout of a new process for the users. So actually whatever I discussed are the technical points, actually nowhere it is related to the function consultants, but based on my during my projects I have seen this the checklist, so I decided to prepare the checklist for new my implementation. Okay. SAP ERP system as a base. This is nothing but SAP conversion to SAP S/4HANA. Earlier we discussed about SAP S/4HANA implementation, greenfield implementation, and now SAP conversion to SAP S/4HANA. Okay, some ERP system to S/4HANA conversion. Okay, in this scenario, we take an existing ERP system and convert the system into an SAP S/4HANA system in many methods. The SID, the customization and the existing data of the source system are kept in this procedure. When selecting this scenario, you should cleanse your data before you convert the system. Note that the scenarios is not an upgrade because the existing system belong to the different product family. Okay, it's not an upgrade, it's a new system and you are just converting it. Okay. SAP business would we have SAP guy, SAP ERP core, and any databases or SAP S4 HANA considered for the source system for the system conversion, and the destination will be the migrated system SAP S4 HANA on premise. So we have SAP guy or SAP Fury, both can be used based on the user decision, and SAP S/4HANA Enterprise Management and SAP HANA. Okay. So this is a system conversion to, these are the methods where we convert the existing ERP system or any SAP, whether it is a SAP system or a non-ERP system, we convert to SAP S/4HANA systems. Okay. And then actually we are discussing about data footprint and archiving. Okay. SAP S4 HANA features are considerably reduced data footprint, meaning the data in the SAP HANA database occupies less space than in a common SAP ERP system on the traditional databases. SAP HANA's improved compression algorithms are already considered in the SAP official string recommendations. However, in case of system conversions, the sizing rules usually do not apply to the target system because the storage requirements are temporarily higher than in a newly implemented systems. More memory is needed because SAP keeps your data to avoid the data loss. Consequently, data is temporarily kept redundantly in the target system. In both the new data models of SAP S4 HANA and in the obsolete tables of SAP ERP systems. Okay. Therefore, the target system need to be sufficiently sized initially. After the conversion, you can delete the redundant data manually. First, however, you should check whether the data has been successfully converted. Okay. So this point is very important. In case of system conversions, the sizing rules usually do not apply to the target system because the storage requirements are temporarily higher than its in a newly implemented systems. More memory is needed because SAP keeps your data to avoid data loss. Consequently, data is temporarily kept in the redundant in the target system in both the new data models of SAP S/4HANA and in the obsolete tables of the SAP ERP system. That is what, to make clear definitions. Again I told repeated. So the data can be temporarily kept in the source system also. Even the data is transferred to the new SAP S/4HANA, but data is temporarily available in the SAP ERP existing or an obsolete system to avoid data losses. Okay, that is the best feature of SAP. To efficiently size a target system, providing sufficient but not too much memory, you should analyze what data in the source system can be archived. So you will be able to access these archives from SAP S/4HANA. Another benefit is that the runtime of actual conversion will also be reduced. However, you should not archive the active data. Your planning should be additionally consider that the archiving routines in SAP S/4HANA target systems still have to be identified to the new data models so that the target system can also archive future data. In addition, you can use the data aging options, which is integrated into SAP HANA. This method moves data that is not actively used from the SAP HANA memory and could be considered a kind of preparatory step for archiving. Hot data is stored in the SAP HANA memory. Cold and historical data is stored in the archive. Okay. So in addition, you can use this data aging options. Okay, which is integrated into SAP HANA. This method moves the data that is not actively used from the SAP HANA memory and could be considered a kind of preparatory step for the archiving. Hot data is stored in the SAP HANA memory and cold and historical data stored in the archive. This is very important. Okay. So don't take actually hot and cold. Actually, the hot means actually current data and cold means old data. So that is stored in the archive data. That is not required. Okay, after conversion. That is what the SAP is trying to say. So simplification list. Okay. Now we are discussing about the simplification list. So before you convert your system, you must analyze the source system in detail. The simplification list provided by the SAP contains all the relevant changes that affect available SAP ERP functions, omitted functions, right? Significantly modified applications or application architectures and non-strategic functions. Okay, the letter non-strategic operation means which is not in which is not in actually is a scope. Okay, the later point, that is non-strategic operations, right, refers to the application that are available in SAP S4 HANA, but that SAP no longer recommends. Okay, because SAP does not plan to enhance or maintain these functions in the future. That's what I said. It will become obsolete. You should only use these functions during the transition phase. Okay, not for the normal run. So pre-checks. Again, for simplification reasons, SAP provides numerous automatic pre-checks. These pre-checks answers the following questions about your systems. Okay, or the technical systems requirement met, or the functions used that are still no longer be available in the target systems in the same form. Okay, is incompatible software used, such as add-ons that have not seen a release for SAP HANA, SAP S/4HANA hit. Incompatible software must be uninstalled from the source system, or you must find a compatible version for SAP S/4HANA. Okay, so we need to contact the add-on manufacturers for further information in this case. Say for example, if you are working with the 3PL logistics, actually some supported versions of DHL will be allowed, and non-supported DHL plugins and adapters, no, that driver program cannot be supported. Then actually we need to ask them for the supported version for the SAP S/4HANA. That is important. Or your custom enhancement compatible with SAP S/4HANA? That is very good question actually, whether all your custom codes and everything are compatible with SAP S/4HANA or not. So that remains that will tell you everything. So functions for SAP ERP expected change or or depreciated. Okay, change to the existing functions normally will have importance of 17%, and functions that are no longer available. Okay, so that occupies 59 percentage. Okay, 26 omitted without replacement, and 33 percentage functional equivalent availables. Okay, functional equivalents available, and 24 percentage that functions that are available in a transaction phase for compatibility and for compatibility reasons. So these functions, the SAP ERP expected change on the or depreciated. So this is important. So we need to know what is how the system looks and what are the legacy systems you are using, whether it is a compatible or not compatible to SAP S/4HANA. So everything we need to plan accordingly. First we need to analyze. We need to do pre-checks. Then only you can implement. Start doing that conversion. The results of these checks can be considerably impact project scoping. We therefore recommend running these checks at the beginning of the conversion project so you can accurately estimate the overall project scope. To run a simulation, you can select the simulation mode in the pre-checks mode. Okay. So results of the check. The results of the checks are categorized as positive result, which shown as a green indicator, warnings that is yellow, errors that hinders a conversion that I mean showstoppers are showing red. Okay, so normally you can see initial screen of the pre-checks for preparing a SAP S for HANA conversion, right? So that will have this HANA pre transition checks. Okay, so we can see all this. Whether it is an operation mode or check the inconsistent check. So transaction transaction change results, default code, application logs, everything available. Okay, in the system. So warnings do not prevent the technical implementation of the conversion from the conversion from the continuing. However, because these warnings might lead to the data loss under some unforeseen circumstances or conditions, you should also always analyze the warnings in detail. So we can get a log of checks and results, right? Actually, in the pre-check screen. So there actually what is missing, what is to be possible, and which are not to be possible. So we can get all the warning signals in yellow, and which a showstopper are showing in green. Okay, so this will help you to help the consultant to go through all the results effectively. So that is important. And SAP has made these pre-checks available via SAP Notes. So SAP Notes 218 2725, right? That will speak about the pre-checks available with SAP S for HANA. The pre-checks are imported into the source system by implementing the SAP Notes, where you will run the check, meaning you can carry out pre-checks independently of the technical conversion project. To be safe, the conversion routine additionally requests that you can run the pre-checks to avoid converting system that have not been checked. Okay, so custom code checks. So what is a custom code check? The custom code check deviate from the procedure described above from the standard SAP S/4HANA system. So to check the custom codes, an SAP NetWeaver system is connected to the source system, and custom code is then analyzed in the SAP NetWeaver system. In this way, unnecessary workload is diverted away from the source system. The results of these checks is a custom code migration worklist, which lists adaptations to your custom code recommended by the SAP. So for that, actually, SAP NetWeaver system should be connected to the SAP S/4HANA system for the custom code checks to avoid unnecessary time wasting and everything, workloads and everything. Adjusting the source system. After the checks have been carried out, you should eliminate the abnormalities found in your source system. Otherwise, the conversion might not run smoothly. After implementing all the corrections, you can verify the system readiness by checking the system again. Carrying out the conversion. If the pre-checks do not indicate any abnormalities, you can initiate the next conversion phase. So call the maintenance planner via SAP support portal. So we have the portal. Let me tell you the portal. https colon forward slash apps dot support dot sap.com forward slash SAP forward slash support slash IMP. So that is importing. Then enter the described, desired target status. The selected versions of SAP is S4 HANA in our case, okay, which is 1611 or 1909, whatever may be in your case, in the maintenance planner. You then carry out the actual technical system conversion using the version of the software update manager SUM. So that has been optimized for the SAP S4HANA. So SCM is nothing but software update manager. So don't take it storage unit management. Okay, it is SCM means in SAP S4HANA technical term is software update manager. And then standard or downtime optimized. Okay, you can choose how the technical conversion should be carried out. SAP provides two procedures for this. That is, using default predefined procedures, SAP will try to balance resources, consumption, downtime, and overall runtime. And second, a procedure with optimized downtime converts larger data volume into the SAP S/4HANA data format while system is in production operations, which reduces the downtime. The price you pay is increased resource consumption and sometimes a longer runtime for the technical conversion. At present, the conversion with optimized downtime option is only available for the source system that do not run on SAP HANA. You can optimize additional requirements in the individual projects. Okay, if you strive for the near zero downtime, SAP recommends involving SAP consultant in the conversion projects. Okay, the technical conversion usually involves major three steps. That is, migrating the database to SAP HANA. That is, your source system databases does not have to be SAP HANA. In this case, the the software update manager enables you to also convert the database to SAP HANA, which is referred to as a database migration option DMO. Okay, implementing second step is implementing new repository objects. The software is updated to a new SAP S/4HANA versions, and third one, converting the data. So data and source system is transferred to the target system using the new storage options. After you have successfully implemented the technical conversion, you might have to perform some application specific tasks. So configuring the new functions. Okay, the system is ready for use again, but only with the functional scope of the legacy system. The new SAP S/4HANA functions are available in the system, but usually still have to be configured. Okay, for detailed work. To simplify this configuration, SAP provides predefined content in the SAP best practices. Okay, and from the single system for to a landscape, the conversion steps we described must be performed to all the systems of the landscape. Therefore, at least in the development, test, and production systems, to overcome the resulting downtime, you can generate a temporary copy of the landscape. So please note that in case you probably won't be able to transport a code or a configuration changes between the systems on the source product versions and the new SAP S/4HANA systems. These limitations also applies to SAP corrections. Okay, these limitations arise because the custom code the custom code and SAP code, right, and the configuration tables differ. So we recommend adjusting the landscape manually, okay, instead of going for automatic conversion. Thus you should also divide the project into two phases and focus on technical conversion of the system first. Then you can then introduce a new or changed process on the converted systems in the second step. So important prerequisites. The possible target of SAP S/4HANA versions depend on the source product versions. Usually, you can select between multiple target releases, right? So important is actually we need to have a thorough check before going for the any conversions. And so begins at conversion. SAP HANA does not have to be already implemented in your source system. You also do not need to implement the version of SAP S/4HANA sequentially when transitioning to the higher version. Okay, in general, a source system running on the SAP ERP 6 or higher is sufficient. So I mean different parts to SAP S/4HANA. Okay, so step by step we need to migrate SAP Business Suite and to SAP S/4HANA family. Okay, so that is I mean it is very important. See SAP Business Suite. Then actually we have SAP S/4HANA. I mean SAP Simple Finance on-premise application, and then SAP S/4HANA, SAP HANA Finance 1605, and then SAP S/4HANA. I mean the 1611, and then say 80180999 and 190009 like that. So different path to SAP S/4HANA. Okay. So the important is SAP does not have to be already implemented in your source system. SAP HANA does not have to be already implemented in your source system. You also do not need to implement the version of SAP HANA sequentially when transitioning to the higher version. In general, a source system running on SAP ERP 6 or higher is sufficient. Okay, so that is important. So we need to tell them that the possible target of SAP S/4HANA versions depends on the source product versions. Usually you can select between multiple target release when when begin a conversion. SAP HANA does not have to be already implemented in the in your source system. You also do not need to implement the version of SAP. Okay, SAP I mean S/4HANA sequentiality when transitioning to a higher version. In general, the source system running on SAP ERP 6 or higher version is sufficient. So one by one we need to migrate. Okay, that is very important. So conversion checklist. Okay, the following list summarizes the individual step for the conversion system conversion, determining the target status, operating model, and distribution of instances. The system conversion can only be carried out for a on-premise implementations or SAP HANA Enterprise Cloud, that is SAP HEC, identifying the desired new functions and verifying the functions currently used via the simplification list taking into account the number of users for each function. Running pre-check is an running pre-checks in simulation mode and custom code checks. We can see the details in http colon forward slash double forward slash bit.ly slash vl44 80 and 41. Okay, so you can cross check that. And then sizing important, and the sixth step, adjusting the capacity planning for the project and the confirmation of migration scenario. And seventh point, if possible, data cleansing and archiving in the source system. So these are the steps actually is a common for both the systems. Okay, both the conversion as well as implementation. Okay, and even in the implementation SAP HANA greenfield implementation steps also I have told all this pre-checks. Okay, planning your system conversion in the maintenance planner, that is http colon forward slash bit.ly slash bl44 8042. Okay, and selecting the standard conversion or the conversion with optimized downtime in the SUM, adjusting sizing if required, and executing the maintenance transactions, checking the result, setting up the front end servers for the SAP query, delta configuration, rollout of the new process for the users. And the landscape transformation with SAP S/4HANA. Okay, so data in a shared database. Okay, landscape transformation refers to a migration scenario in which various SAP ERP systems are integrated into a shared SAP S/4HANA systems. So you might choose a landscape transformation to benefit the most from SAP S/4HANA real-time data processing. Only if all data is kept in one database can system use this data with the highest efficiency. Okay, one if all the data can be kept in one database only, the system uses the data with a higher efficiency. Another benefit is that data no longer need to be replicated. Replicated. Okay, so we are discussing on the landscape transformation, right? So it refers to the migration scenario in which various SAP ERP systems are integrated into a shared SAP S/4HANA systems. So we might choose a landscape transformation to benefit the most from SAP S/4HANA real-time data processing. Okay, only if all data is kept in one database can the system use this data with high efficiency. Another benefit is that data no longer needs to be replicated as a data as a one, right? So SAP S/4HANA is efficient compression algorithm, and it's a high speed can handle the volume of data that previously would have been spread on out to a multiple traditional systems. For example, actually the credit management systems we have in SAP SD also we have credit management system, and we have FSCM also we have credit management system in earlier system, because FSCM will be a separate box earlier, and now actually everything the SD and all the FSCM models are integrated in a single HANA platform. So the redundant or duplicated functionalities, that is credit management, can be removed from the SD scenario, and the powerful credit management utilized by FSM, right? That is used or adapted in the new SAP S/4HANA embedded versions. Okay, so that is the advantage. I like to mention here. So landscape transformation, as I already told you, SAP business suite, right? So it will consolidate or selective data transformation based on SAP IT capabilities. Okay, not ID, it is LT landscape. We already discussed, right? LT MOM, right? So that is based on the capabilities, and we have in SAP HANA on-premise or cloud. So we have SAP Guy for on-premise and SAP Fury for cloud, and then we have SAP HANA Enterprise Management. I discussed, early in my video, and SAP HANA is a single data platform. Okay, so the two, actually we have two sub projects. Means the landscape transformation process consists of two sub projects. In the first part, the master system is prepared. As described in the in my early session of this video, two sections, that is previous two sections. The master data is either a new implementation of an SAP S/4HANA system or a system conversion. The latter scenario is implemented if the landscape contains SAP ERP system that can be used as a basis for the other systems. Okay, and the configuration and process specification would be optimized and up to date data in the system. When planning data when planning this first step, take into account the guidance for the new implementation and system conversions described in the previous part of this video, and then selecting the data extraction method. After you have implemented an SAP S/4HANA master system, you still need to transfer the data from your other system in the landscape to this new system. So first determine the required data extraction methods. Okay, we have defined different methods, that is consolidation of several complete systems and transfer of selected company codes, transfer of selected business process. Okay, we have three different methods. Okay, and SAP landscape transformations. Okay, so regardless of this extraction method, data from several SAP ERP versions is read and returned to the SAP HANA system. In this process, this data will be need to translated into a new SAP S/4HANA data model using the SAP landscape transformation SLT. However, you cannot use SIT for continuous data in the data replication. Okay, just for one time data transfer we can use the SLT. Okay, and in this scenario SAP has equipped a landscape transformation within the right conversion logic for the new SAP S/4HANA data model and non-SAP source systems. Okay, then we will have this in mind. Landscape transformation also possible for the non-SAP systems if you are willing to accept some constraints. In this case, however, you should consider using SAP data services as described in the new implementation scenario. The specific tool you use depends on your individual situation. So that's what I'm telling. Actually, the migration SAP S/4HANA migration tool, right? A workbench that will support SAP and the SAP data service will support both SAP and non-SAP applications. Okay, systems. The individual realization in the landscape transformation are highly specialized projects. In addition to the technical support, SAP and other service providers can offer specialized consulting and implementation services for these scenarios. Okay, so we can discuss each and everything in detail in my coming videos. I think actually in this part of the video we have described why we need to transfer, how to do that, and what are the criteria to be considered, and actually the different migrate data migration models, and then new implementation aspect of SAP S/4HANA, and system conversions, data migration aspect, so data footprint and archiving, and then simplification, pre-checks is custom code checks, landscape transformation with SAP S/4HANA. But one important thing, for custom code check we need to integrate SAP NetWeaver system to the SAP S/4HANA system. So these are the very important considerations, and I have given the notes for the transformations or data migrations, and even the web links I have given. So I think actually this video is very useful for each and everybody interested in SAP S/4HANA migrations. Thanks for watching my video. This is Shivakkumar signing off.